Yeah, I got it.
So it's about 5 feet, so you put it to about 5.
Larry, what's
Yeah,
the first time you ever played with a band on stage?
At my high school graduation party, I played with a band that Mark was there for, called, what was his name, Rutgers. There were 3 guys from the neighborhood, 2 guitars and a drum. I don't think they had a bass. And they played pretty good.
Where'd you play?
In my backyard.
What music?
Well, they played a lot of things. I played 5 Stones songs with them. Honky Tonk Woman. I couldn't sing Angie because I couldn't sing a tune when I was in high school.
You can now, though.
You can.
Well, when you sing harmony, I can't. They did Brown Sugar. I did Brown Sugar, Honky Tonk Woman, Satisfaction, and Jumpin' Jack Flash with them.
What year was that?
1977.
What was your next appearance with the band after that?
With a band called Apple Core at DVT at Rutgers in 1978.
What did you do?
I think I did the last time. That was the only Stones song they did, because it was similar to the Beatles. They were a Beatles band, I think.
Where did you get this interest in the Stones?
In 1965, I heard Satisfaction on the radio. My sister was a big Stones fan and had an album called High Tide and Big Grass. That's my sound. This is just a rehearsal, obviously, for the Cocroaches' 10-year video.
Green Grass and High Tides, you're talking.
No, High Tide and Green Grass.
High Tide and Green Grass, sorry about that.
Mark has a copy.
So, go ahead, continue.
So, that album was one of her albums. That was released early 1966, so I had been familiar with the Stones late 65, early 66.
How old were you at this time?
I was 6, 7. And I bought my first Stones album in November of 66. And it was called Got Lies If You Want It.
Is that right?
So I was 7 years old when I bought my first Stones album.
Wow.
And how much did it cost?
It cost $2.77.
How much was the tax?
I don't remember, I didn't pay tax when I was 7.
So you bought it at J.M. Fields.
But at Fields, since my sister was
So,
They don't charge you tax.
this was your first Stones album.
not a 7-year-old.
You must have had other bands that sparked your interest at that
Yes,
time.
my favorite band before the Stones in '65 was a band called Question Mark and Mysterious, and they had a big hit called 96 Years.
Right.
And I was also into the Partridge Family back then, Paul Revere and the Raiders, Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs, the Shadows of the Night, all those bands.
So when did the Stones distinguish themselves in your mind from these other acts?
1967, when the Stones were, it was January 14th, when the Stones were on Ed Sullivan and did Ruby Tuesday.
Did you see that live?
Yeah, I saw that in my living room at Sullivan Live.
I think your water's boiling
So
now.
they fought. So
It's the first time that you saw the Cockroaches in concert.
well, everybody wants cake and that, and Dawn bought those Italian pastries.
Oh, I didn't even see them. So take them out.
Well, I was in the middle of an interview.
Mm-hmm.
The Larry's party?
Watch out for the wire, you'll probably trip
The Larry's
too.
party was August of 1989. We don't have any more new cheese things on the floor. Mark, get me up and look at it. But I came late, so I missed the whole party. Oh!
So you didn't see them play at all?
See who?
That was easy.
Cockroaches.
Where's the mushrooms? Because people are so bad.
And the monkeys are like...
So in 1967, the Stones pulled away from the pack in your mind.
It might have been 66, but I distinctly remember seeing the Stones on Ed Sullivan, and they did Ruby Tuesday, and I didn't understand what the word Ruby, whether it was Rudy or Ruby or something. I had to ask my sister, and I immediately went out and bought the single, and I still have that picture sleeve, which is...
Larry Leibowitz.
I've known Larry since March of 1965.
Okay. Now, what are your memories of the beginnings of the Cockroaches band?
What I remember about the Cockroaches is that living in Freeling Heights on 5th floor
In Rutgers.
at Rutgers University, I had you, Matt, living on my floor, along with a bunch of other crazy people.
Yeah, you mean that whole thing by yourself.
And I mentioned, I heard you practicing in your room. I think it was you, and I think it was Pete Constantino. And you were playing in your room, and we were talking, and you mentioned that you liked Stones. So I remember it as clear as it was yesterday. I was walking with Larry, and we were walking down to the center of town, like Cheap Thrills, Half Thoughts, where you can get the old bootlegs and stuff, look for bootlegs. And we were walking in front of Frelinghuysen, and I mentioned that there was these two guys on my floor who played Rolling Stones, and that they were thinking of, like, you know, forming a band. And he mentioned to me, like, he was so enticed with the idea of being the singer in this band and, like, living out his fantasy to be Mick Jagger, that I got everybody together. I made the introductions, and the Cockroaches were born. And it was the beginning of an era.
Do you
Not
remember?
only an era, and a decade.
Do you remember what year that was?
That was
What's that coffee flavor?
that was 1978, I believe. No, 80.
Let me
1980.
interject and say you're so wrong. That's not how it happened at all.
Yes,
I was
it is.
in your room, and Matt came into the room and introduced me, and then he mentioned that he was a musician, and I mentioned that I'd like to be in a band that just did the Stones, and he said he likes the Stones and he'd be interested in doing it, and his roommate played the bass, and he had a friend who played the guitar.
You know what? This is like point counterpoint. Larry, you ignorant slut. That's not the way it happened at all. It was in front of Frelinghuysen.
It was not. It was in your room.
No, it was not.
You remember like it was yesterday. Your yesterday was 10 years ago.
That's right, and that's when it happened, 10 years ago.
Can I just interject for a moment?
1980. Yes, ma'am.
I remember distinctly Mark Willis telling me that he had a friend who was interested in the Stones, and I told him I had a friend who played Rolling Stones music. Is that correct, Mark?
That's correct, Matt.
I
And
don't remember.
obviously,
I guess we should all.
Matt, did you ever remember an introduction in my room? I don't believe this ever took place, and I think Larry
Possible.
was on some type of hallucination.
Let
Possible.
me just say that I
At the
never
time.
forget anything, and my memory is excellent, and I remember everything. And that's how it happened when I said
Yeah,
it.
but you're over 30 now, so it's kind
It doesn't make a difference. I distinctly remember being seated on your bed in your room, which was hard
What
to
were you
find.
doing
Okay,
on my
well,
bed?
well, let me
There's
ask
a lot
this.
of crap
Let me ask
all
this.
over your bed.
The fact is, the fact is that Mark and you and Mark have been great friends for years
Until tonight.
until this evening, and Mark was in fact responsible for introducing the original members of
That's
the band.
true. I have to
Um,
agree with that.
Now,
And I was
Thanks a
responsible.
lot, Mark. Only for you. Really
So this is
appreciate
Now-
your
that.
fault.
Larry, what is your memory of this event? And then, what is the first time you met the band members and the first time you got together with them to play?
The first time I met you was in Mark's dorm room. Pete I met either at a later date or that same night in the hallway.
By the way, how's the moose?
The moose is good.
Okay.
The first time we ever played, you told me that you had a friend named Mike who played the guitar. He played great Rolling Stones. He was into the Stones. And we scheduled a rehearsal in October of 1980 in your dorm room. And Pete and you, roommates, played bass and drums, respectively. And I remember Mike coming over, carrying his guitar in his case without an amp, because he used one of your amps. And we did Honky Tonk Woman was our first song that we did in our room.
Wasn't that
And we
during
made it
the
did Get Off My Cloud because that was the
That was
only
an
song we
afternoon
knew
on a weekday, wasn't it?
was
A school
it was
day.
a weeknight.
weeknight?
Yes, and Mike was not in college at the time.
So what was your impression when you met Mike Post?
I thought he was an excellent guitar player. I didn't know much about him. He was mysterious in a way. He didn't talk to me. He just played the guitar. But I thought he was very good. And I
What
felt
was
like
your
I
feeling?
was the outsider because
What-
you were friends with him since high school.
What was your feeling when you did those first songs? What were you thinking inside?
The first thing I thought was, this is fun. This is all we'll do. And maybe someday we may play in front of people, maybe a year from then. I never thought we'd play in front of people a week later and all year long. I thought it would just be a band that played in your room and that was it.
Well, what used to go on in that room?
Well, Colleen or whoever those girls were that lived next to you kept banging on the wall to tell us to shut up because they were trying to study.
How often did we practice?
It seemed like a couple of times a week. I don't remember exactly.
How big was this room and how much equipment was in there?
It was a small room that fit two beds, and a little space between the two beds. We had a full set of drums,
I don't want to be
3 amplifiers,
I think I used to feeding people.
my microphone. It was quite a small room with a lot of equipment.
Can you remember any people from the dorm coming in to watch us practice?
few people stuck their heads in, but it was November 15th.
Well, Mark's jumping the gun a little bit. Larry,
He
so
jumps the gun quite often, and you can notice that his wife has jumped the gun too.
what in sequence? What happened at that point? You were practicing in the dorm room. You had a lot of complaints from the people
Well,
on
we
the floor.
kept playing anyway.
And then what happened thereafter?
We decided to play for the people that didn't like us. We played on the 5th floor of Frelinghuysen in October. I don't remember the exact date because I didn't record it. It was October 1980, about a week or two after we got together. We did about 8 songs. We did 2 sets of 4 songs each. And we played in front of about 25 or 30 people from the dorm, and everybody seemed to like us. And I thought that was as far as we'd ever go.
Then what?
And then because we were playing, I was dating a girl, Janice Lieberman, who
Worked for the newspaper.
worked for the Targum. And because of her,
So you have them.
she came to see. I had not gone out with her yet. We were going to have a date the next week, but I decided to be bold and asked her to come watch us play.
A little bit.
And she came and watched us play and thought we were very good, so she told the Royal Manor.
Do you think she was lying?
No. I just thought that she didn't know much about music. But she liked us, and she, like me, this was before our first date, and she told one of her clients, she worked for the advertising department of the Target.
What year was Janice a senior at that
She
time?
was a junior at the time.
You were a senior.
Sophomore or junior.
You were a senior.
I was a senior. She was a sophomore or junior. And one of her clients was the Royal Manor, which was a big nightclub in the area. And the owner of the nightclub worked with Janice closely for putting ads in the Target. And she told him about our band, and he wanted to book us. So, because we were being booked at the Royal Manor, that's how we got a job at we played at a few places, the Rose Room, and because of the Rose Room, we got a job at the Douglas Pub. The Rose Room we played November 15th.
That was her second job, was it?
Yeah, and the third job was December 6th.
How did the Rose Room go? What was that all about?
The Rose Room was a disaster.
What happened?
People threw bottles at me.
Were the Cocroaches the headline act that night?
No, we played, yeah, so we played in front, before a movie. We played before and after the Stones movie, Ladies and Gentlemen. And then after that, we did 2 sets, before and after the Stones movie, and that was right before the Pink Floyd movie. So most of the people apparently were there to see Pink Floyd. And
The Pink Floyd crowd was the rough crowd.
yeah,
wasn't
we played well, but Mike's guitar string broke during that set.
it? The PA
And-
system was broken.
Well, I don't remember the PA system being broken. I just remember Mike broke a string, and I remember you saying it takes balls to do what he did. He took his guitar off and picked up another guitar that was sitting on the side and picked that one up and started playing a different guitar during Jumping Jack Flag. You haven't thought of that for about not 10 years.
Yeah.
So I remember everything. So everything I say is correct.
How did that experience affect you?
I
Having
was-
bottles thrown at you, and what was were you afraid for your life?
I was very scared, but I also didn't think it was right for them to throw those bottles at me.
Well-
During what song was the first bottle?
Mark, I have a question for you. You and your roommate, Mark, you and your roommate at that time were
Richard Costa.
Richard Custer,
That was so fun.
were
I tell you
collecting
why.
were collecting a lot of music. You had a lot of albums. You experimented with. You listened to a lot of things. And Rich Costa had a phrase that he coined about the Cocroaches. Do you remember what that phrase was?
A phrase about the cockroach.
Yes, he had a line that he described the Cocroaches in terms of.
Their musical ability.
Do you remember the phrase, the band that Rutgers loves to hate?
Why? That's not your interest.
I haven't thought about that for about 10 years, so that does come to mind.
Were you at the Rose Room?
No, I wasn't. The first time I actually saw the Cockroaches live, aside from one of the rehearsals for the Douglas Pub,
What was your impression?
I thought they were really not good. No, for a band, I looked at Lebo.
Was this the
Larry.
first Douglas Pub or the
Yeah,
second?
first one. I looked at Larry as himself, and I I knew him from the fact that he was going to be a doctor and everything, and I knew that I thought it was funny that he thought this was like another career. And I thought, boy, he would starve if this was a career. But it was neat to see him just like bop around the stage and just like live out one of his fantasies. You know, everybody has a fantasy they like to live out.
Larry.
And he got to live out. Now, no, it's true though, but it was neat to see everybody and like real.
That's
Anyway.
true. It was a joke at the beginning. I'm not a singer. I was never a singer. And I'm not a musician, and I wasn't a musician. And I thought that it was such a joke for me to play in a band. And the fact that we even played once, I thought was unbelievable.
And then
I fooled everybody.
And they came
I
over
mean,
there.
I sang and people danced.
And they came over there yelling.
Well, Larry, you had an act all ready to go when the band got together, didn't you?
Well, I had been rehearsing since I was 7. I knew every word to every Stone song.
So
I just didn't know what key they
You had been rehearsing about,
27 years.
no, at that point, you've been rehearsing 15 years, 14 years.
Longer. Yeah, about that long. Yeah, I was only 21. And,
How did our sound compare to the live Stones sound?
well, I only heard what was coming out of the Stones speakers. When the Cockroaches played, I heard the Stones playing. So I sang, was imagining I was listening to the Stones. I don't really know what the Cockroaches sounded like. And I tried to make us sound like the Stones live, not the Stones from the studio. So to me, it sounded authentic.
What was the first time you noticed that the crowd reaction was favorable?
At the Douglas Pub, December 6th, that was a great show. People danced. People didn't dance at the Rose Room because they came to see a movie. We were just, a friend of mine, Mark Nemery, who's still a friend of mine, was in charge
Even
of
though
Rambling
he's
Rose
still
production, and he got us that job, which we got paid for, by the way, $100, which I thought was a lot, which we divided 5 ways, so we each got 20.
How did we divide that 5 ways?
Well, 4 members of the band plus our manager, Jeff Sadow, got 20. He got fired that night, and Bruce took over. No, I take that back. Bruce was the manager that night, and Bruce got fired, and Jeff took over.
Let's see.
But the first time we played at the Douglas Pub, December 6th, there was a lot of people there, 100 or 2. Quite a lot of people.
I think there were about 1,000 people in and out of the club that night.
Maybe. I don't know, but there were so many people there.
That
night.
was
packed,
that was
and
one of the
everybody
last
danced
nights
every song.
before finals.
Is that right? And there was a lot of people dancing, and I'll never forget singing, and I'm not a singer, and I was in a band that wasn't supposed to be, and everybody was dancing, and the joke was on them. That's what I was thinking. The joke was on them, because they were dancing to some people they thought
Tell me the
was
story
dance.
about how many bottles of Jack Daniels you consumed that night.
Well, 1, but it wasn't really filled with Jack Daniels. I emptied out a Jack Daniels bottle, and I filled it with iced tea, so it looked like I was drinking Jack Daniels, and I acted like I was wasted for that effect. And people thought that I was so cool because I was drinking and drunk, but the joke was on them because I wasn't. And at the end of the show, I'll never forget, somebody put their hand over their mouth and threw up. They vomited all over their hands, and I said, you know, I created that. And in a way I was proud that I made some fool think that he was watching some real rock and roll band, but it was just a joke. I'm not a rock singer. But he was dancing and he was drinking and he threw up, and I was the cause of it.
What about the other members of the band? Were they?
Well, they were real musicians.
What amazed me is that the Cockroaches had groupies and everything else. You know, they really had women following them around and people who followed them from place to place, which I thought
There
was,
were a few
considering they were
a few
amateurs,
different
I thought
places.
that was hysterical.
Well, we were professionals because we got paid $125 that night.
Yeah, but
And we
you
had a
knew that it
contract.
wasn't a career move for you, and
No, I knew that it was a joke. The whole thing was a joke, and then when it got towards the end of the year, I started taking it more seriously, and that's when we kicked Matt out of the band. When we started taking it more seriously, and Matt's parents started bugging him about that he wasn't going to become a doctor, which turns out he is. So Mike and everybody else thought that we were starting to get bigger than we really were, which was fine because we had big heads and big attitudes, which was fine. So Matt sort of got ousted out of the band because he couldn't rehearse very much with us anymore. We thought we were going places, which we weren't, but we thought we were.
I'd like to say something. You know, no, when you look at the way when the way this band started, and you know, there's some people in Brilliant Husbands who really detested the fact that Cockroaches existed, and in a way, it puts strains on a lot of relationships. And I think Matt will agree with me is that we were. I would say we were decent friends before the Cockroaches, but as the Cockroaches went on, we became less friendly. And I don't think it. Yeah, I don't think it had anything to do with the band with us.
Well,
I think
because
it was
you had to stick up with the people on your floor.
yeah,
who
I think it was a
wanted
lot
to
of
be there.
I think it was a lot of I think it was pressure from people on the floor, but it was also the fact that I just didn't feel that this band was worth messing up your grades or people getting. I mean, Larry was so involved in it that there were times I thought that it was over consuming him and his goals and the way he treated other people. I felt that he was too wrapped up in this whole thing. So I guess I kind of resented it. But as time went on, and I think as we graduated, and then it was just done as like parties and people getting together and having a good time, and we all kind of grew up a little bit and realized that that it was just a fun thing and that there were real goals in life that we all wanted to achieve. But I think that the relationship is among the people itself, I think that improved, far beyond where it was in the beginning. I think that just had to do with just changing perspectives over time. And we're talking from 1980 when it started, up to, the last party was in 1989.
Howard Myers mentioned that when he started with the Cockroaches, this was the first time that he'd ever seen Mike Post serious about playing music. And he said he thought it wasn't going to be serious at first, but then it became what he thought was very serious in 1980.
It was 1981.
81.
Well, the two of them, that was the first time we had two guitars. And the two of them worked hard learning all the notes. And that was the first time that I didn't seem to be in control of rehearsals anymore. I used to be the one that said, all right, let's do this song. Let's do it this way. And then when two guitars started playing together, they had to decide what songs to do and how to play and what to do next. I wasn't in charge.
There was a lot of friction in those rehearsals, wasn't there?
Yeah, because you kept singing harmonies, and I don't like the way you sing.
It wasn't only that. There was a lot of friction in terms of what music to play, how to do the songs, how to end them, how to start them, what sequence to play the songs. Do you remember that?
Well, I didn't know too much about what key everything was in, so certain things they wanted to do based on what key the song was in, which I didn't know. I just wanted to do the songs I liked, what songs I thought we did best.
But it amazed me. One of the things that amazed me is when you look at the members of the band. Is I remember Larry telling me that Donna, the keyboard player, actually had an offer. She turned into a hairstylist, but she had an offer to go to Juilliard, and I think it was her flute. And she was so into this band thing. I think she turned it down before the band, but she was so into it that she turned that down. That seemed to me to be amazing because it's those kind of offers, are only for special people, and they only really come around once in a lifetime. And I felt, I guess I felt kind of responsible. I looked at this thing, and I knew Larry's goals from the beginning, and I guess I didn't want it to consume him like it consumed her. And I think in a way I kind of resent, and also with you, Matt, with your, with school. I mean, I just didn't think that. I just felt that this was bigger than it should ever have been. And that it was becoming with managers and people fighting. I mean, it wasn't meant to ever be that. And I felt, a lot of people didn't like the band because they were noisy or because they didn't like the rehearsals. I didn't take any offense to that. I just didn't like it because I felt that it was bigger than it should have been and that it maybe jeopardized friendships and career goals. And I thought that was wrong. But it turned out okay in the end.
Larry, do you remember any recognition walking around campus and being in this band?
No, because I wore makeup. And I was proud of the fact no one knew who I was because I had eyeshadow, lipstick, eyeliner, a costume, a hat. So nobody knew that it was me.
Mark, you pointed out that there were people who recognized people in the band and that there were actually some interest among people in college in the band.
Mm-hmm. There were girls that during the rehearsals, there'd be girls in the room, whether it was the musicians' girlfriends or just people who heard music and were intrigued by live music and not something on a record. And then when it seemed that when I went to the Douglas pub especially, that there were a lot of women who like no one even knew these people. And they were hanging out by the stage and you know, Lebo met a lot of people who really just loved getting involved in it. One girl did his eyeshadow on his eyes, and you know, it seemed like, you know, you kind of wondered whether these people were being friendly because they really liked the person or they liked the image that the person was portraying. And I kind of thought a lot about that. And I guess it wasn't my place to judge because, you know, it's just not my place. But I felt that at times that people were just using them just to be close to somebody who was quote unquote a musician in a live band.
Larry, what happened later on that year? So recount the jobs that you played that year.
Well, our first job was in the dorm in October. After a few weeks of rehearsal, our first paying job was November 15th at the Rose Room, and because of that, we got another job December 6th at the Douglas Pub. And because of the December 6th Douglas Pub job, we got another job January 28th.
And December 6th has some significance.
Well, December 6th was the anniversary of Altamont, which was pretty neat.
What job was played on December 6th?
Douglas Pub. And after the Douglas Pub,
Did you tell everyone to cool out at the Douglas Pub?
I think I might have done that during Sympathy for the Devil.
I think somebody said his mic was on. He said, "Yeah, I know."
We played so well at the Douglas Pub December 6th that the manager immediately hired us again for after vacation the end of January. I think it was January 28th, and we played again. And we played excellent on January 28th, but Donna and Mike and a few other people snuck beer into the Douglas Pub, and we were blackballed. The manager found out that people from our band brought liquor into the Douglas Pub that we shouldn't have. They wouldn't let us play anymore.
Ever again.
Ever again. And we tried later on to get jobs at the Rutgers Pub, but they wouldn't let us because they thought that we were
Alcoholics.
Whatever, which was such a joke because we're not.
I remember after the second Douglas Pub job, somebody coming up to me who was quite intoxicated, and he said, "Man," he said, "your lead singer has finished 2 bottles of Jack Daniels tonight. He is drunk out of his mind. This guy is amazing."
I never had a drink any time we ever played. It was an act. It just goes to prove how rock and roll is such a joke, and people take it so seriously.
You know, in a way that whole band was just like an outlet. You know what I mean? It was an outlet for different people's, you know, either their fantasies, aggressions, whatever, and it was just interesting how the evolution of it, and it seemed to, you know, to go full circle from its beginning stages, you know, through its turbulent times, and then, you know, resolution of the problems, and then declining just to a phase where it was just like a pleasure, you know, a hobby kind of thing for people to get together and have a good time. And it really did go full circle. It's kind of amazing in a way.
Mark, what are your memories of Mike Post? Do you remember him?
Yeah, I remember Mike. Mike, when I heard him, I thought that this guy was like the only true musician. You know, I felt bad for Mike Post, to tell you the truth. I mean, he was a really nice person, you know, and but to him, that band was everything. You know, to him, all he wanted to do was play. I mean, he had a job, and you know, he didn't have much of an education, but he had a job that he worked, and he lived to play. You know what I mean? And he seemed to me to be the closest to one of the Rolling Stones that you can ever come to, because just like Keith Richards just loves to play, and that's you know, if Keith doesn't tour, he's not happy. Mike just loves to play, and that's like the thing he likes to do best. And I felt that he was on a different plateau from everybody else in the band, and in a way I kind of felt that he was getting cheated, because I guess we all knew that in the end everybody was going to go their separate ways, and that they would all have something to fall back on. Larry podiatry school, Matt had dental school, but Mike didn't have anything other than that band. You know what I mean? that was such a pleasurable thing for him, and that made me very sad because I really liked him.
Well, Matt didn't have dental school. He was only a sophomore.
But he knew that he was going to. His goal
Well, he
was
wanted
to
to
be a
go to
doctor.
medical school, and his parents wanted him to, and that was how he was pressured to leave the band, because we couldn't rehearse. We had to sneak around, sneak to his parents' apartment to get his guitar, which he had hidden under the
Yeah,
bed.
Do you remember that? Tell that story.
Well, I remember driving to your parents' house and you running in and running out with your guitar in it so they wouldn't see you, because if they found out that you were playing with the band, you'd be in big trouble. They didn't want you to be in the band, and you had to sneak around to rehearsal. And because you had to sneak around, you weren't always available. So Mike decided that we wouldn't go anywhere that way, because we all thought we were getting a little bigger than we were. So we sort of, and I look back on it and I wish we didn't, but we kicked you out of the band.
I want to say something about that. I think that was the first point that I realized that this thing had gone way too far. You know, when it was mentioned to me, when I heard that they were actually going to kick you out of the band, I mean, it's like, this is only like a fun thing, a hobby. You don't kick somebody out of something that's just fun. It's like Larry and I, we grew up our whole lives together. I mean, when we were in gym class, you know, he was the best basketball player. I wasn't one of the best, but he would always choose me on his team. It would be like him saying, you know, I'm gonna be on the Knicks, and I'm not gonna have you on my team because it's gonna stop me from getting to where I want to go. I mean, I would be real hurt, and that's the way I looked at it. When I heard that they were gonna kick somebody out of the band, I felt that was like, that's when I knew that this thing had gone too far, and that's what really hurt me. I mean, I thought about myself being not picked by him on that basketball gym team, you know, because I wasn't good enough, and I just felt that was really wrong. I think that's when I turned anti-cockroach, is when that happened.
So what happened after that, Larry? Tell us about the band personnel for the rest of that school year.
Well, after you left, we took Gary Decker, who lived on my dorm and on my floor, and he played the drums.
Now, you left out something before I left. What were the additions to the band?
Donna was added, and also Howard was added to the band. So that was the five.
And what about the lineup at the Douglas Pub the second time?
That was the
There was
lineup.
another musician there.
Well, Jeff Sadow played trumpet on one song, and he didn't play it very well. So I really never really considered him part of the band. He was just our manager.
What were the other changes throughout that school year?
Well, after you left, Gary Decker played the drums, and Howard eventually got ousted because Mike felt that he was too into the Beatles and not into the Stones, so Rich Wood joined the band.
How was he?
Rich was excellent, and I think he was kind of a cross between Rolling Stones and heavy metal, and he provided that type of playing that most kids of the day really liked, that fast playing, high-pitched sound. Not the Keith Richards type riff that Mike played. So I think the two of them contrasted each other, and that sounded pretty good. And that's when the band, I think, sounded at its best, around April, May, June of 1981, with that lineup, with Donna on keyboards, Mike and Rich on guitars, and Pete on bass, and Gary on drums, and me singing. We had about half a dozen jobs with that lineup. And everything was pretty good until June.
What happened in June?
Well, Gary decided, since we weren't making any money, and that seemed to be the reason he was in the band, so he decided to leave the band because we weren't making any money. And that was the last thing I wanted to do. I didn't need the money. I still don't need the money. And I never wanted to play for money. I just played because it wasn't me. It was a fantasy, so I was doing it. So the band broke up soon after that when I went off to podiatry school in Cleveland. But there's so much that happened between that time and in August when I left. We could talk an hour for each month from the band. Because I remember everything. There isn't anything I don't remember in the band.
What's your most memorable experience with the Cocroaches?
The marathon, April 9th, 1981, playing at the dance marathon was unbelievable because I had been to that marathon a few years before I was in a band, and I thought that was the greatest thing to be on that stage with that fancy equipment and the soundboard and the lights and those thousands of people and the booths and everybody dancing. It was unbelievable. And to think that I would
Plus
ever
you
play
broadcast
on that.
live over a radio
Yeah,
station.
I'd worked for the radio station
WRC,
and broadcast that. And to think that we would ever play the dance marathon was beyond my wildest dreams. And when we played there, that was so great. We played very well that night. There was a lot of people dancing. We were broadcast on the radio. It was great. I was dating a girl at the time. I met another girl that I dated for several months after that. That same night, I felt like a hot shot. And it was a great night. I'll never forget it. And I've got it on audio tape.
I don't know if you know this, but I went with my friend Frank,
And we were sitting in the balcony.
and I was sitting in the balcony, and I went to watch. There were two people in the balcony. It was me and Frank sitting up there watching in the dark, and we made sure that we sat behind the spotlight so we couldn't be seen.
What did you think?
Thought you were good. I was mad that it wasn't me on stage, but I thought you were good. It was a good show. And I also listened to part of it on the radio back in the dorm. And there was a band that went on either before or after you that did some David Johansen. Remember somebody did Funky Funky But Chic or something. Remember that song?
Yeah.
Funky But Chic, something like that, which was good. And
I was mad at you for canceling our job at the Royal Manor.
Yeah.
You and I went to get that job,
right.
and that job was lined up since December, and we were scheduled to play,
April or something.
well, maybe even sooner. We were scheduled to play perhaps
February.
February or March, and we found out almost at the last minute that you had called up and canceled the job because you were so mad that you got kicked out of the band, and apparently your name was on the contract, that you called up and canceled, and you didn't tell us that our gig was canceled. So I was really pissed at you for that. And I didn't forgive you for that for 4 years.
And then tell us some more progress.
Well, there were so many things. I could tell you about every single gig that we played. The two Douglas pubs, and we played at ZBT in February, which was our first job with Gary Decker, who replaced you. And that was pretty good, but the only thing that stands out on that show was that in the middle of Emotional Rescue, he stopped. And we didn't finish the song because it's the part that comes to an end abruptly and then continues. He didn't continue. So we ended that song before the ending. That's what I remember most about ZBT. And also, that's the first time Jeff ever played with the band. At the end, he played Brown Sugar on guitar, which I didn't know until almost halfway through the song, because I was facing the audience, and I turned around and Jeff was playing the lead. I think he had just learned how to play guitar then. And Mike was on saxophone, so that was pretty strange. We didn't play much in March, or April. April was the marathon. But in May, we played at a club, which is not there anymore, in Roselle. And I can't think of the name right now.
What year was the busiest year for the band?
Well, 80 and 81 was the only year that we were really together as a band. And then when I went to podiatry school in 81, the band technically broke up and only played once or twice a year at Florida, and that's how it's been.
Didn't you
This past year or two, we played about 3 or 4 times a year.
weren't you gonna play a bar down the road from Greasy Tony's? And it
We
burned
did,
down or
June
something?
5th and
The place
6th.
burned
Golden
down.
Spike.
The Golden
Golden
Spike,
Spike,
June
right.
5th and 6th, and we charged admission, and we made about $100. We had gone around, school was already out, so there weren't many people around, but the few people that were left, we went around to all the different apartments and cars and put flyers on people's windshields that we were going to be there, and we didn't get such a big turnout, maybe 20 people. We played very well that night, but that was the night Gary Decker decided that everybody showed up. We didn't make much money, even though we were having fun and we were playing well, that it wasn't for him, so he quit.
What do you think was the key to this band's sound?
Mike. The band couldn't exist without Mike. He's the whole band. I mean, no one can imitate Mick Jagger like I can, I have to say. But,
Mike was the Keith Richards of that band.
yeah, Mike knew every note, every song. He was the band. I mean, there's a million drummers, a million bass players, and there's a million singers, but he's the best musician. He's the best guitar player. He's very irresponsible, I have to say. He's an excellent musician, but you can't rely on him. But he was the whole backbone of the band. Without him, there was no band.
Tell us about all the personnel changes as quickly as you can. See if you can cram them in.
Well, all the different people that play guitar were Mike, Post, and Howard Myers and Rich Woods and Jeff Viola.
Now, Mike was playing continuously with
Yeah, Mike
James.
played with everybody.
Right.
Then we had Howard, then we had Rich Woods, then we had Jeff. And looking at everybody now, I think Jeff is really excellent because he sounds more like Ron Wood than anybody else.
So what do you think the ideal lineup is when you can have it?
Well, if I gave my ideal lineup, I'd offend somebody, so I won't say. But everybody's good in their own way. Certainly better than me. But definitely you have to be on drums, and Pete would have to be on bass. But Pete probably won't ever play with us anymore, because he's going to be in Iowa. And Mike, of course, has to be on guitar. And Donna was pretty good on keyboard. Gene is good too.
So you,
You can't replace me, unfortunately.
so you say Mike,
Yeah, Mike's the whole band.
Donna, Jeff on guitar?
Mm-hmm. Well, everybody's good in their own way. I missed playing with Rich Woods. He was pretty good. And Howard is good. There's a lot of songs that Howard inspired a song that we never would have done. A lot of the Stone songs that sound kind of like the Beatles.
Which one?
19th Nervous Breakdown was one of Howard's
We did that,
songs,
yeah, that's right.
and a few others.
And he joined, yeah.
Around and Around we had done, but he perfected it a little bit.
So what are your memories of playing at the Shore a couple summers ago?
Now you're really jumping. You're skipping 5 years.
Tell us some things in between.
I'm getting tired. We should do this another day. There's too many memories to think about. But we should finish another time.